Jai Gurudev. This book is Support is Needed for Self-Evolution by Pandit Sriram Sharma Acharya. Chapter 1. Support is Needed for Self-Evolution. The credit for higher qualifications is generally given to the student's own hard endeavor, though factually the success also depends indirectly on the extraordinary role played by the guardian's dedication and expertise and the hard work of teachers. It is true that the welfare of a person and development of personality are by and large related to a person's own thinking, character, behavior, strong determination, and courage. Nevertheless, in this process, some indirect paranormal influences and divine grace too take part, a communication with which is established through the medium of the spiritual guide known as a guru. The latter builds up the foundation for strengthening power of faith and devotion, Shraddha, in the disciple. It is the attribute of Shraddha with the help of which the disciple is able to achieve his spiritual goal without difficulty. In this element of Shraddha are hidden infinite possibilities. Profound faith of Meera had compelled the deity Gopal to live with her in human form. When Dronacharya had declined to accept Eklavya as his disciple, the latter had sculptured a clay model of his person, envisioning it as a guru, by virtue of Shraddha, had derived greater expertise from it than Dronacharya himself was capable of imparting. With his Shraddha, Ramakrishna Paramhans was able to persuade the stone idol of Kali to become a living deity and accept oblations offered by him as a human being. This element of Shraddha itself is the root cause of self-evolution. For developing Shraddha, one is required to seek the help of a guru in human form. In order to become an expert gymnast, one has no other alternative but to seek an admission to a gymnasium where dumbbells and other equipment are used to build muscles. Here too, for augmentation of Shraddha, one has to depend on the goodwill of a guru. The idea is somewhat similar to the consecration of a lump of clay tied with a holy thread, a kalava, as Ganesh, making it as powerful as the deity itself by projecting one of Shraddha on it. For performance of each and every act in life, one needs a teacher. A child learns to speak by hearing his guardians. A boy named Ramu was once picked up by a pack of wolves and, living in their company, had been found emulating them in locomotion, speech, and food habits. A person born deaf remains dumb throughout life, since in absence of capacity to hear, one is totally deprived of phonetics and of language. Besides speech, the child also learns to eat, take a bath, dress, and perform similar acts of general civilized behavior by watching the habits of grown-up people. In absence of the training, a human being cannot hope for a better existence than that of an ape in the forest. Family environment provides one opportunities for civilized behavior. With one's own endeavor exclusively, one can neither become highly educated nor well-cultured. For acquiring either of these qualifications, the help of a teacher is needed. None can become literate or learn mathematics with personal efforts only. Although the first lessons are learnt from books and general concepts are formed, for guidance in reading and making mind capable of conceptualization, direct or indirect help of some individuals is required. A human being arriving in this world has overwhelming animal instincts. Later, to become a well-cultured member of society, one seeks assistance of appropriate educational institutions and teachers. Whatever be the field of action, for progress, one does need appropriate training. For success, therefore, training continues to be an absolute necessity. In the field of self-evolution, too, the above-mentioned law of training holds true. Here's only one needs guidance and assistance. There is, however, one characteristic specialty of this area which may be understood as an upstream endeavor. People in general are self-centered and have base instincts related to food and sensuality. Their traits, concepts, aspirations, and habits revolve round actiles pertaining to sensual gratification, self-sustenance, and procreation only. In such an environment dominating society, the mediocre only emulate the prevailing trend and are carried away like leaves in a river of blades or grass in a hurricane. One desirous of self-evolution has necessarily to adopt an entire different level of concepts and philosophy in life. It requires some extrasensory help, which becomes feasible only after establishing an intimate relationship with some such Superman who has imbibed a high level of idealism in life, and thereby developed competence to impart it to others. This, in fact, is the process of seeking a guru, an initiation by him, which is known as Guru Diksha, in parlance of spirituality. For moral decadence, one does not need any assistance. Just as voluntarily or inadvertently, a person falls automatically downwards by virtue of gravity. For an upgradation or an upward movement, on the other hand, one has to seek many avenues. For drawing up water from a well, one needs a rope and power. Projection of a satellite in space requires tremendous energy. Meteors continue to fall on Earth without any form of propulsion. In short, no upward movement in nature is possible without extra effort. Raising oneself above mediocrity is a difficult process, and an opportunity for assistance of it should never be missed. It requires constant support and motivation, just as one needs a walking stick while climbing uphill towards a lofty peak. No one ever succeeds in germination of divine traits in self in absence of assistance and guidance of a spiritual competent guru. The standards practiced for progress of the inner self comprises development of intellectual intimacy with such persons who are spiritually competent and can help in achieving the desired objective. This is the process of seeking a guru, or dedicating oneself to guru ideals. Is it possible to achieve the goal of life by interacting with a large number of competent persons? Let us try to seek an answer in the standard practice being followed for an acquisition of a degree in PhD, chartered accountancy, or in medical sciences. For each of these, there is a system of nominating specific guides. If a student talks about futility of alignment with the single guide and asks for acquiring experience and expertise from some odd sources and more than one person, his credibility will be questioned. Appointment of a particular guide fixes responsibility on one person, and this confinement of interaction between the two increases the level of confidence. If in a state of indecision, one tries to acquire little bits of information here and there, the effort does not serve any useful purpose whatsoever. For this very reason, there has been established a tradition of consistent, regulated, and prescribed course of training, along with a provision for interaction with a specialist for obtaining practical experience in all specialized fields of knowledge, such as chartered accountancy, practice of law, and medicine. It would not be possible to gain appropriate expertise by taking the help of odd institution or persons at one's own convenience. Although there are no restrictions in the field of spirituality on augmentation of one's knowledge by studying relevant literature or interacting with learned persons, no useful purpose is served unless the established tradition of assigning definite responsibility on one guru is followed. It is both relevant and absolutely necessary. It may, no doubt, be necessary to appoint more experienced and qualified teachers as the students gain successful higher qualifications, but if one thinks of avoiding a teacher altogether, it would be considered an absurd proposition. With increasing qualifications, as one moves to higher classes from primary to middle school, and then to college and university, one necessarily needs a change of teacher at stage. There's teachers for specific subjects, but unless assigned classes according to a definite timetable, they remain underutilized in depth of knowledge on a specific subject cannot be acquired by a random study. Research scholars who depend on books from library and personal endeavor only are not permitted to submit the thesis directly to a university for approval, unless it is passed through a duly appointed guide. the same regulations are applicable for positive achievements in the realm of self-evolution through spiritual practices. Unfortunately, nowadays seeking a guru is being considered an obsolete practice by the people at large. Not only people have become indifferent to it, they think it is not necessary. Why, in spite of the known utility of an interaction of a guru and disciple and its logical validity, man appears to lose interest in this tradition? An analysis would show that there are many reasons and facts responsible for this phenomena. It needs to be emphasized that for a human being, progress of the inner self is no less important than that in the material world. The latter only makes one's life more glamorous for the world and merely adds to sensual pleasures. Progress in the worldly matters, which brings in prosperity, is also associated with the possibilities of acquisition of vices and indulgence in undesirable activities. On the contrary, with progress of the inner self, there accrues an extraordinary enhancement in dignity of character, as a consequence of which the person does not face any scarcity of either resources or assistance. There are umpteen examples in history testifying to this phenomena. The giant personalities like Buddha, Christ, Gandhi, Vivekananda had not only benefited their own selves, but also mankind, and had thus derived double advantage of enhancement of happiness for self as well as others. On the other hand, the prosperity and vanity of Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, Marich, Kans, Duryodhan, and Alexander led to their own downfall, besides being a cause of unhappiness, misery, and decadence to their countrymen. On these considerations, prosperity associated with spiritual development is always considered significant, necessary, and useful for all points of view. In this context, the relevance of guru for achievements and guidance for progress is also quite evident. Then when has been the root cause of this growing indifference towards the tradition of seeking a guru? The reason is not far to seek. The practice being followed these days in the name of guru-disciple relationship has become utterly despicable. Before taking up coaching, a teacher is supposed to acquire mastery in his own subject, and he must possess capacity for discharging responsibility for helping others in self-evolution through spirituality. The assurances given by such person must be substantiated by his own experience and character, and his past life must show that his or her qualifications as a guru are authentic, and that he or she has developed appropriate inner strength by resorting to a strict spiritual discipline of devout austerity. Qualification for a guru is not acquired merely by gibelness and showmanship. To be an expert in the field of spirituality, one has to possess wisdom of a high level, strong character, and unwavering spirit of philanthropy, and must have accumulated sufficient spiritual energy by performing tapasya. These are the minimum qualifications entitling one to become a guru, in order to raise his disciples spiritual. These days, persons with above qualifications are rarity. On the other hand, there are many who, in order to earn public acclaim and to satisfy their own personal ego, keep on fleecing people behind the facade of a guru-disciple relationship. If they're dragnet, they are also able to catch quite a few gullible people who ultimately gain nothing from their misadventure. The only beneficiary in such affair is the self-styled guru who collects substantially quantity of clothes and money as Guru Diksha in return for whispering some unintelligible mantra in the ears of the disciple or advising about some secret ritual. Thus begins a process of perpetual exploitation of the poor disciple who has to suffer because of ignorance. A toy elephant or a horse may be good to look at, but cannot be used for riding. A paper boat is of no use to a person intending to cross a river, however cheap or attractive it may be. This is the reason for the skepticism being expressed for the tradition of guru-disciple relationship these days. Since it lacks authenticity, people have rightly become indifferent to it. Not only proposals for seeking a guru is being rejected outright because of its current distorted form. People feel indignant in finding continuance of this practice deliberate exploitation. Nevertheless, the fact remains that if self-evolution is considered necessary, it cannot all be carried out without gathering appropriate means and resources. It does not mean merely taking recourse to spiritualistic rituals, but also requires assistance and support of a high order which is helpful in achieving desired objective. Whenever one succeeds in obtaining the level of assistance, one may rest assured of ultimate success in the endeavor. Traditional religious concept of God in India is that the trinity of three supreme powers, namely Brahma, the power of creation, Vishnu, the power of preservation, and Mahesh, the maintainer and enforcer of discipline in all systems of cosmos. Ancient Indian culture draws an analogy with these three powers in three living beings on this earth that is treated with utmost reverence. These are the Mother, the Father, and Guru. Mother is equated to Brahma since she contributes a part of her existence to create and give birth to a child. Father has been considered Vishnu since he is who looks after the upbringing and makes the child self-sustaining by providing education, medical facilities, matrimonial assistance, means of livelihood, and many such capabilities for comfortable living. The status of Guru is much higher than either of the parents, since whereas parents take care of the creation and preservation of physical body only, the Guru provides the being a second birth in this very life by superimposition of cultural excellence on the soul as well as on personality. The latter process is known as Dvijatva. Dvijatva is a process of inhibitions of a higher level of virtues in man and is initiated through a ritual of Yagyopavit Diksha, through which the disciple symbolically takes a pledge to follow the direction of the Guru for evolution of self. It is thus quite obvious that the status of a Guru for the human being is supreme, even higher than that of the parents, since it is he or she who provides man the opportunity to evolve into an angelic being from the lowly status of birth, which is no better than an animal, having animal traits only. Since this elevated entity of a Guru is capable of refining and upgrading the inner self of man, he or she may be viewed as a personification of Shiva or Mahesh. In fact, the traditional prayers in the scriptures refer to this very aspect as Guru. In ancient India, when Indian culture had become fully matured, children were sent to the boarding schools of Gurukul. Soon after attaining some maturity, these institutions were the center for sowing seeds of talent and cultural excellence in man. This specialized task, which the parents could not faithfully undertake because of their incapabilities, was being easily accomplished under the expert guidance of the spiritually elevated Guru. Even after completing the assigned basic education during the childhood, one requires the guidance of a Guru for higher goals. Interaction with the Guru may or may not be needed during daily routine of life, yet he or she keeps on helping the disciple from time to time, depending on latter's need. Close interaction and support of a Guru has helped many individuals of ordinary caliber to become extraordinarily competent. By the grace of Buddha, many like Harshvardhan, Ashok, and Anand reached the pinnacles of excellence. Despicable persons such as Angulimal and Amrapali could get an opportunity to transform their petty personalities into those of superhumans by taking Buddha as a Guru. Had there not been a close spiritual interaction between Samarth Guru Ramdas and Shivaji, Ramakrishna Paramhans and Vivekanand, Chanakya and Chandragupta, Vrijanand and Dayanand, either of them would have been losers. In recent history, we have been witness to the influence of Mahatma Gandhi and late Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vinoba Bhave, in absence of which these great men would have lived and died in ordinary persons, nor without them Gandhi would have gained this elevated status. Even if Gandhi had remained engaged in spiritual pursuits like Bhagirath and Dadich and reached the height of success through lone efforts, numerous others would have remained deprived of the benefit of his influence. Besides, in absence of Gandhi's guidance, a multitude of many other persons would have also lived and died as non-entities. There These are some examples to show the interaction of guru and disciple is mutually beneficial, besides being significant to the society. Chapter 2. Seek the help of competent person and be competent. Our most revered Gurudev has repeatedly mentioned that he owes his present extraordinary competence to the grace of his super guide, in whose absence he would not have gained the present exalted status. He says that he dedicated each and every bit of his faith and devotion, Shraddha, to his Guru, making an absolute surrender of his life and soul to him. Consequently, he began to receive invigorating showers of unlimited generous benefactions from God, the benefit of which he has been receiving incessantly from the very beginning. Had the degree of his dedication of Shraddha to the Guru been lesser, he would have gained nothing, like the multitude of casual worshippers engaged only in rituals and religious practices. The delegation of power in any organization is regulated on base of the competence of its members. Ramakrishna Paramhans had a large number of devotees, though all of them had blessings from him. There were only a handful of sadhaks like Vivekanand, Brahmanand, Premanand, and Shraddhanand, who were magnanimously rewarded by him. For this differential treatment, however, Ramakrishna should not have been accused of partiality. The quantity of rainwater accumulating in a reservoir depends on its capacity. Not a drop of water from even torrential rains is retained on a high mound or on a bare rock. In the field of spirituality, the significance of degree of Shraddha of a disciple is rated higher than the competence of a deity or Siddha-Purush. The Kauravas could not derive that much benefit from the faithful service of Dronacharya, who was in their own employment, which Eklavya could by virtue of supreme Shraddha while living far away from him. So marvelous is the power of Shraddha that the entire structure, self-evolution, is erected on this one element. The fruitification of a mantra depends only on this single factor. Shraddha constitutes the bridge between the deity and the worshipper. It is the medium through which divinity is incorporated in the life of a sadhak, making the latter a dignified human being. By building up a high level of Shraddha, one opens up the highway to the glories, vibhuti, of spirituality. In absence of a Shraddha mantra, is reduced to a jabber, and the deity an object of entertainment. After seeking a guru, one takes the first steps in the direction of cultivation of Shraddha. Creators of spiritualistic literature have gone great lengths to explain the mysterious powers by Shraddha and Guru. They have considered Guru to be superior in status to God, and even equated him with the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Then why, in spite of this well-known fact, there is no enthusiasm among the masses for seeking a guru? There is only one reason. Nowadays, one rarely comes across such spiritually competent person who can be considered worthy of being accepted as a guru. How can one expect such people to help the disciples of others who themselves have not followed a strict spiritually disciplined life of devout austerity, who have not painstakingly accumulated vast knowledge by studying fundamentals of spiritual science, who have not been able to muster courage for surrendering life and soul for the welfare of mankind, who do not have a spotless character of their own, and who are unable to look after their own self and keep on passing the hat before every Tom, Dick, and Harry. An interaction of such a guru and disciple would in fact mean establishing an unholy trade alliance between a self-styled guru desirous of fleecing and cunning an disciple looking for easy gains. In such an environment, where is the scope for developing Shraddha for this type of guru? And what could be the basis and conviction for developing a close interaction between the two? There is a saying, an unholy alliance between a covetous guru and a greedy disciple carries both to hell. Nowadays, the relationship between the guru and disciple is being dominated by elements of incompetence and distrust. The so-called gurus are least concerned about the spiritual development of the self-proclaimed disciples, whereas the latter hardly feel any need to behave in accordance with the prescribed discipline and directives of the guru. This is the reason the fast disappearance of the glorious tradition of guru and disciple. In some cases, traditional rituals are being blindly followed, but in absence of the basic spirits, these do not, the guru acquires respectability. Not there is any improvement in the ethical intellectual capacity of the disciple. Competence in guru and shraddha in the disciple are two essential ingredients of success in the field of spirituality. A combination of these two attributes creates an environmentally perpetual fragrance with virtuous traits in society. Today, the mantras and deities have become ineffective, since the eternal tree of spiritual progress is slowly dying up, losing its vitality in absence of irrigation, which was provided by the healthy guru-disciple relationship. Once the significance of the science of self-evolution has been understood and the path of progress is pursued, it becomes necessary to seek ways and means for continuance of Shraddha, Vishwas, and their progressive augmentation. In absence of a chosen appointed guru, one always remains doubtful about the appropriateness of the practices being followed. The field of research in disciplines of spiritual science is vast. There are wide contradictions among the specialists about the systems to be followed. The treatises on spirituality also propose divergent views. As one tries to probe deeper and deeper in the subject, the confusion becomes compounded. Discrimination between the authentic and spurious becomes difficult, and considerations based on logic are hardly helpful. Under these circumstances, Shraddha falls victim to indecision, and their uncertainty contends forever. In absence of proper guidance, one keeps on drifting aimlessly like a rudderless ship, continually seeking new systems, abandoning older ones. In the process, one gains nothing but exhaustion and frustration. Only those find it possible to come out of this labyrinth who, after identifying a particular efficacious system, follow it perseveringly with unwavering faith and enthusiasm. This task, quite obviously, cannot be accomplished without the help of a guru. All aspirants desirous of getting success in the spiritual field have to make a search and seek a Satguru. Until one succeeds in this endeavor, as a stop-gap arrangement in an emergency, help of the organizers' Pragya Abhiyan could be sought. Anyone looking for help in these critical times of juncture of 2 centuries most welcome. Some misconceptions are prevalent in society about seeking guidance from more than one Sadguru. God incarnate Ram is known to have had 2 gurus. Initially, Vashishta was his family guru. He had taught him Yog Vashishta. However, on the pretext seeking protection of Yagna, the second guru Vishwamitra had taken Ram and Lakshman to his hermitage and made them adept in specialities of the science of Bala and Albela. What was learnt through Vishwamitra was not the expertise of Vashishta. Savitri and Gayatri, the former governing the physical and the latter extrasensory world. Having acquired these powers, the princes used the first one to defeat the violent, nonconformist, vicious people, the Asurs. The second one was utilized for undertaking the more difficult responsibility, establishment of a golden order in the society, known as Ram Rajya. There are no taboos on taking guidance from more than one guru. Our most revered Gurudev was initiated in Gayatri Mantra, and his Upanyan Sanskar was performed by Mahamanya Malavya. Thereafter, seeking the guidance from a super soul who was representative of the cosmic power responsible for looking after the events of this juncture of centuries as his invisible guru. He has been planning and implementing all his activities under his extrasensory directions. Others too may follow his example and step forward to seek the help of a powerful guru. It is well known that Dattatreya had sought inspiration from his 24 guru. Choosing more than one guru has been an age-old custom, and there are umpteen examples in history to prove it. By associating with a person, anyone can rise above mediocre status and become an extraordinary person. After getting interlinked with a powerhouse, the electrical appliances begin to work. A tap attached to a water tank continues to work till the latter becomes empty. The moon derives its brilliance from the sun. Rivers connected with the Himalayas never dry up. By virtue of being a part of government, lowliest employee in a police force is authoritative and feels proud of the position. In a nutshell, in order to be effective, one has established a link with an appropriate source of power. After associating with a competent entity, even a weakling becomes strong. On joining Ganga, the waters of all dirty drains and rivulets become part of a holy river and are considered pure and pious. A creeper which is incapable of attaining any height on its own climbs higher and higher with the support of a tree. Generally, such analogies hold true for the relationship between God and man. Nevertheless, to a great extent, the intimate interaction of competence of Guru and Shraddha of discipline produce the same result. Devtas owed their divine attributes to the guidance of their Guru Brahaspati, whereas the Asurs received their physical powers by the grace of their own Guru Shukracharya. Either of them would not have acquired these powers on their own. A combination of guidance, transference of paranormal powers, and grace of Guru, with Shraddha and hard endeavors of discipline, have always been producing miraculous results. In ancient times, the hermitage of Guru is one's family was considered as significant and honorable as nobility of family lineage, and persons were then being identified by gotras of Guru in the same manner as they are now known by gotras of ancestors. Since people belonging to all castes and classes are now known by gotra, past, and this could be a reason for continuance of specific gotras in successive generations. It appears in ancient times the tradition of linkage with particular guru was given the same weight as the nobility of ancestors. Spiritually, guru is given more importance than both parents taken together. There is a simple reason for this concept. The contribution of a guru who brings out the hidden talents in the personality of a man for evolution of the inner self, no less in the way that parents who help in making a person self-sufficient in respect of physical requirements of the body. The task undertaken by Guru is more arduous than that of trainers of the wild animals in a circus who are made to perform miraculous feats. Basically, Guru Diksha is a process of initiation and transference of bioenergy. Proximity of a fire gives one warmth. Regions and neighborhoods of mountains are cold. Even the grass growing underneath. In ancient times, the heritage of a guru in one's family was considered as significant and honorable as nobility of family lineage, and people were then being identified by gotras of guru in the same manner as they are now by the gotras of ancestors. Since people belonging to all castes and classes are known by gotras named after rishis, it is possible that they had rishis as their ancestors in the remote past, and this could be the reason for continuance of specific gotras in successive generations. It appears in ancient times the tradition of lineage with particular guru was given same weight as the nobility of ancestors. Spiritually, guru is given more importance than both parents taken together. There is a simple reason for this concept. The contribution of a guru who brings out the hidden talents in the personality of a man for evolution of the inner self is no less way than that of a parent who helped in making the person self-sufficient in respect of physical requirements of the body. The task undertaken by a guru is more arduous than that of trainers of the wild animals in a circus who are made to perform miraculous feats. Basically, Guru Diksha is a process of initiation and transference of human bioenergy. Proximity of a fire gives one warmth. Regions and neighborhoods of mountains are cold. Even the grass growing underneath of sandalwood tree becomes fragrant. An insignificant particle becomes a pearl with the help of an oyster. It is the proximity and intimate interaction with a competent entity which has been metaphorically referred to as Paras, Kalpavriksha, and Amrit. It brings out total transformation in human personality. This is what transpires on establishing an intellectual relationship with the Guru by considering him or her as the most intimate friend, philosopher, and guide. Let us now examine how this change in personality takes place. In each human body flows the current of pran, bioenergy, but in superpersons, it is present in a much greater strength. For some spiritually elevated people, it is possible to see this energy as an aura or halo around their body or head. The bioenergy present in a person creates a characteristic field around the body. When an intimate relationship of profound faith and firm conviction is developed, the strong current of bioenergy present in the super people or more competent person begins to flow on its own towards the disciple, who has it in lower quantity. This process of transfer of energy is totally extrasensory and has an impact on all animate and inanimate objects in its vicinity. It is well known that around the hermitages of rishis, the carnivores and domestic animals live in perfect peaceful coexistence, in spite of their intrinsic characteristics of animosity and fear. The energy field of the rishis in the vicinity made these animals react contrary to their natural behavior. The same process begins with diksha of a disciple by guru. Experts in the field of spirituality have strongly condemned those who have not been blessed with the opportunity of seeking the guidance of a really competent guru. It has been mentioned that even their deceased ancestors do not benefit from prayers offered by such individuals. Pilgrimage undertaken by such persons, too, does not bear any fruit. Some have even forbidden partaking food with those who have no guru. Such beliefs might indicate an exaggerated faith in the tradition, or may be expressions of emotional reactions, but are nevertheless strong motivations for seeking guru, and show that the introduction of a person remains incomplete in absence of a reference to the gurudwara to which one belongs. Unless a person relates himself to a particular woman as a mother, a doubt is expressed about the legitimacy of his birth. Similarly, son of an unknown father becomes a bastard, and the mother is accused of having low morals. The cultural ancestry of a man is considered equally important, if not more. Experts in the field of spirituality recommend that each and every man should make an effort to become culturally evolved, and for this purpose should go through the prescribed process of seeking guru. They point out advantages of this alliance and also indicate the harm likely to be inflicted if one refrains from the process. In ancient times, being addressed as Nigura was considered derogatory. Thus, these remains no doubt that establishment of a relationship with a competent superperson as a guru is an absolutely necessary and must be sought. Diksha and Yagyopavit are interrelated. Yagyopavit ceremony symbolically represents Ovijatva, the second birth of the being. All mothers give birth to a humanoid animal that comes into this world with only animal needs and instincts. In subsequent growth, too, this state continues. It is the guru who brings out and develops ethical excellence in a man. A mine produces only ores, which are raw materials, comprising raw materials and minerals. Unless heated in the blast furnace and thoroughly refined, the ore would remain raw, unless product. The same analogy is applicable to a human being. Parents and guardians only produce the human body and make it competent to look after its physical requirements. For ethical evolution and development of talents and creativity, the person has necessarily to seek the benevolence of some superperson with proven competence in the field, who is none else than a guru. The purpose of imparting education and talents is normally served by Gurukul, where the disciples learn the art and science of happy and purposeful living under the direct supervision of a guru. Where it is not found feasible, the interaction between the guru and disciple is carried out through the media and correspondence courses, educative discourses, audio, visual cassettes, telephonic counseling, and occasional personal discussions. In this way, despite physical separation, continuity of occasional close interactions is maintained. Ram and Krishna had maintained a similar interaction with their gurus Vishwamitra and Sandipan even after completing basic education at their gurukuls and later on moving elsewhere. Libraries are filled with literature on spirituality discussing modus operandi of achievement of paranormal powers through sadhana. In these treatises, efficacy of sadhana and procedures from their practice are given in detail. Nevertheless, it has been repeatedly emphasized that none should ever attempt to begin the practice of any sadhana on one's own. A basic prerequisite for sadhana is the examination of one's own spiritual status by a competent guru, who only can take a decision of the type of sadhana to be undertaken. One cannot become one's own doctor by going through books on medicine, or taking a prescription by reading the literature given with the medicine. Where a patient refrains from consulting a doctor and follows his instructions for some doses of medicine, there remains every likelihood of suffering due to ignorance. The same analogy is applicable to sadhana. The method normally appealing to the mind might not be suitable. On one's own, one cannot evaluate the status of the inner self. Even to look at one's own eyes, which help one to see everything, one needs the help of a mirror. How can one therefore analyze, diagnose, and prescribe for the inner self of own? It leaves no alternative to taking advantage of the keen perception and experience of a competent doctor. For this very reason, those desirous of taking up sadhanas need consultations, protection, assistance, and the benevolence of some chosen competent guru as a guide. Until such a guru is found, the successful culmination of sadhana continues to be a dream world. For a new entrant to the field of self-evolution, there are numerous factors necessitating, seeking, and getting initiated by a truly competent guru. The wise are well aware of this need and make every endeavor to fulfill it. Decision and choice. Just as for making materials progress, physical endeavors are needed for evolution of the inner self-efficacy of Chetna is required to be increased and the hidden talents in the person to be brought out, developed, and made utilitarian. Generally, there are talents in the person. There are two basic urges prompting a living being for action. One is hunger, which necessitates activity for acquiring food. The other comprises hormonal secretions in a healthy body of a youth, which provide an urge for search and interaction with a member of the opposite sex and related activities of the family life. The existence and endeavors of all living beings generally pertain to the above two routines. The soul of the being, on the other hand, follows an entirely different course of action and progress. Extrasensory research in spirituality in ancient India has established the parallel to the physical evolution of the species. The soul too follows a path of progressive evolution, and after passing through morphological forms of 8.4 million species, finally appears in the form of a human being. During this course of this association, the soul acquires and accumulates many base instincts and traits from its earlier existences, which are carried over to the human form. Just as with the progressive growth of child, larger clothes are required. The evolved soul feels discomfiture in its older envelopes of baseness. For fruitfulness of human life, compatibility of body and soul is required to be established by equipping the inner self, antahakaran, with benevolent, ethical values, and the physical body with virtuous traits. This, however, is a very difficult task because of two reasons. The older habits of earlier life cycles are too deep-rooted, and the change does not appear convenient in the prevailing social environment. The upgradation of the soul, therefore, does require a very hard endeavor, the process of which called sadhana. The first step on the way to sadhana is taken by taking a decision of choice of the deity to be involved. In fact, the deity is none other than a symbolic representation of some attributes of the omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient God. Although the soul has a natural tendency to involve, one has to choose an appropriate path for its progress and have a concept of the form it is destined to assume. The objectives of people entering the realm of spirituality are varied and innumerable. There is no end to human aspirations. Like giant waves of sea, each fulfilled desire gives rise to many other, and the process continues infinitum. Consequently, human endeavor becomes considerably subdued because of the multiplicity of desires. Since generally no specific goal is kept in sight, this aimless wandering results merely in exhaustion and desperation. Like the proverbial musk deer, man keeps running helter-skelter in search of lasting happiness, the source of which lies within one's own self. As mentioned earlier, human soul has a natural tendency to seek the path of evolution. Externally, this trait is seen in man as high ambitions and continuous desire for excellence. In absence of a clear definition of the goal, these ambitions find an easy outlet in fulfillment of physical appeasement, and consequently the object of life is misconstrued merely as a satiation of carnal desires, lasna, greed, trishna, and ego, ahanta. Through fulfillment of these desires does provide some degree of pleasure and comforts to the body, they are not in the least helpful in the process of evolution of the soul. Where high ambitions are not guided by ethical values, they tend to misguide man towards evil acts, and prosperity becomes the root cause for moral decay and misery instead of bringing in happiness. These rules and regulations of sadhana depend on the deity the disciple desires to invoke. In parlance of spirituality, this deity is known as Ishtadeo. Basically, the main objective of upasana is to seek divine help for an upright, virtuous living. However, the psychological background for the endeavor required for such living is created with the help of the treatments prescribed in upasana. The ultimate goal of virtuous living is attainment of absolute purity in thought and behavior. This is the state known as entry into heaven, swarg, or attainment of absolute freedom, mukti, salvation, etc. In communion with God, Ishwar Darshan, the endeavors required to achieve this goal constitute the various disciplines of sadhana. In sadhana are incorporated education as well as motivation, and consequently it is observed perceptively fructifying into moral upgraduation of life, bringing in real happiness from within. Before setting foot on the course of the inner self, one must have clear concept of the goal to be achieved. Before laying foundation of large engineering projects, the architect first prepare appropriate blueprints and models. For selecting ways and means for evolution of the inner self, a variety of spiritual disciplines have been adopted. There has been a tradition of choosing Hanuman as Ishtadev for invoking devotion, strength, fearlessness, Ram for endurance and discipline in thought and behavior, modesty and friendship, Krishna for invigoration of body and mind, duty, consciousness, love, health, long life, development, purification, etc. With the decision on Ishtadev, mind gets a definite direction for seeking ways and means for appropriate endeavor. This process activates the nuclei of energy lying dormant with the body, and suddenly man begins to receive paranormal powers by tuning in with the omnipresent cosmic energy of God. Each success story begins with certain aspirations. Aspirations give rise to necessities. Necessities create motivation for endeavors. Combination of endeavors and motivation generates a tremendous field of energy, attracting support from the three different sources. One of its components make the endeavor viable and compatible with the desired goal. The second activates the dormant capabilities of the person, providing inner strength for progress. The third component brings in the divine grace by tuning in with the cosmic energy. These three components together constitute the Trinity, assuring success in each venture. By making a decision on Ish to be invoked, one is able to identify the right path of success. The grace of the Supreme Being descends on a man as excellent in his thoughts and behavior. With it, traits of high thinking and upright character begin to appear. prompting the person to undertake commensurate activities. Upasana is nothing but adoration of excellence. Intact, the exclusive goal of worshiping God, who is an ensemble of absolute virtues, is to seek excellence in life. While making a decision on choice of Ishtadev, one normally feels embarrassed because of the numerous availability alternatives. In ancient times, the situation was different. The saints have arrived at a consensus, and all worshippers follow their directives without exception. Ancient Indian culture, which was the precursor of all religious concepts of the world, had arrived at one conclusion, that for sadhana, Gayatri only was to be taken as Isht. Gayatri is being evoked as Isht, sometimes immemorial. Puranas say that prior to existence of this world, the cosmic energy of God had appeared to Brahma, who, under extrasensory motivation of the Creator, had invoked Gayatri to acquire the competence for creating the cosmos. The trinity of powers, God governing this world, derives its strength from Gayatri only. At the dawn of culture, Brahaspati, the Guru of Devtas, and Shukracharya, the Guru of Daityas, had propagated the two disciplines of sadhana known as Dakshin Marg, sadhana and Vam Margi sadhana, respectively, which were related to the spiritual and material aspects of Gayatri itself. In ancient Indian scriptures, Gayatri appears in various forms. The famous 7 Rishis are representative of the 7 Vyahritis of Gayatri, incarnations of divinity, viz. Ram and Krishna, too had Gayatri as their Isht. The 4 Vedas, Puranas, and other scriptures are only explanatory treatises on the super mantra Gayatri. The 24 people, referred to as Gurus of Dattatreya, were there. The 24 people referred to as Gurus of Dattatreya were these very 24 letters of Gayatri. In the same way, the 24 types of Yoga and Tap are also extensions of philosophy and regulations of Gayatri sadhana. In fact, Gayatri is Guru Mantra and is used as a medium to establish the link of spirituality between the Guru and disciple. There are 2 ancient Indian religions. These are Sikha and Sutra, Yagyopavit, worn as a strand of threads across the shoulder. Both are representatives of Gayatri. Shikha on the head symbolizes the ideology of Gayatri, and Sutra on the body is a translation into action. Traditionally, Sandhya forms an essential part of worship in Hindu religion. Gayatri is an essential constituent of Sandhya. The foregoing facts clearly show that Gayatri is the basis of the eternal religious traditions and in foundations of all spiritualistic practices. For these very reasons, it has been considered the best discipline in Hindu ideology. The philosophy of spirituality considers Gayatri as Ritambhara Pragya. Ritambhara means an element of Shraddha, compatible with discriminatory wisdom. By Pragya is meant far-sighted prudence encompassing totality of sagacity. Gayatri is, intact, the nuclei around which is erected the vast framework of Brahma Vidya. These are, in a nutshell, the philosophical aspects of Gayatri. In practice, i.e., in course of sadhana, these concepts are translated into various types of treatments as yogic and ascetic, exercises and rituals in religion. The choice and decision on prescribing Gayatri as the Isht, goal, and invincible deity has in fact been taken after profound and prolonged extrasensory research, endeavor, perseverance, practice, and experience. The sadhana of Gayatri is universal and for everyone. It cannot be confined to any particular religion, caste, or sect. Though having been developed in Bharat, it has been incorporated in Indian culture. Its influence does not remain confined to the people of this country. In spite of being the soul of Indian culture, it is efficacious for all human beings irrespective of their country or religion. The culture of India is in fact a divine culture and could be considered as a culture of humanity. Invocation and Ritambhara Gayatri as Isht must be considered the topmost priority of one's life. This itself is called Atmagyan, Brahmagyan, and parlance of spirituality. This is in fact the force behind the far-sighted discriminatory wisdom and prudence. Justice and propriety are its fruits. The wise know that circumstances are only resultants of one state of mind. Distortions in concepts bring about adversity of circumstances. Changes in the way of thinking within produce miraculous transformations in the environment without. Poverty, adversity, distress, problems, and calamity are only consequences of decadence of inner self, which finds expression in distortions of thinking and inappropriate actions. Only idealistic activities motivated by high thinking can bring man internal satisfaction, and abundant support and cooperation from all quarters are also divine grace. An in-depth analysis of the factors responsible for an ancient period of Satyug has clearly established that the grandeur of the golden past of humanity was only because of the high level of thinking and character of the people. In other words, we could correlate the then prevailing environment with the fruitification of Ritambhara. By the grace of Ritambhara Pragya only could this land of Bharat, and through it mankind inhabiting all over the world, could get an opportunity to be indebted to God by having access to eternal happiness. Invoking Pragya as Isht brings all those benefits which have been described in the scriptures related to Gayatri through interesting smiles and metaphors. The significance of realization have been emphasized through maxims like Nahi Gyanen Sadrishya Pavitrami Vidyate. It has been bringing honor and credit to many seekers of self-realization like Buddha since time immemorial. The Mahapragya Gayatri must become our exclusive choice. Symbolically, the idol of Gayatri has been shown having a white swan as her conveyance. It is not an ordinary bird, but the Rajhans Paramhans of scriptures, which has been discriminating farsight wisdom Pragya. This Rajhans has the competence to partake milk and leave the water dissolved in it, for its food is dependent on pearls, virtues, ignoring the worms, vices. This metaphorical expression indicates the attitude of a mind of a seeker of self-realization is required to develop. Gayatri and Pragya are interrelated. By the grace of Gayatri, the sadhak is endowed with discriminatory far-sighted wisdom known as Pragya. Thus, for Isht, Gayatri is the supreme and exclusive choice. Once this decision is made, for the process of self-evolution becomes certain and accelerative. With it, there does not remain in doubt about the rule acquisition of paranormal powers through sadhana. Significance of a competent guru and worthy disciple. During extrasensory transaction of power of spirituality, credibility, and worthiness of the receiver are important factors as the authenticity of spiritual competence of the giver. Even during a heavy downpour, not a drop of water is retained on a rocky slope, nor is it able to support the growth of a tree. The quantity of water accumulating in a tank depends on its depth and size. Rivers tend to flow towards the sea, which has the capacity to contain their water. For a blind person, even the bright midday sunlight is of no use. In order to enjoy music, one must have ears and the capacity for appreciation. Where the mind is infatuated, one hardly benefits from the best advice of a company or of wise men. A worthy disciple, having absolute faith and confidence, can perform miracles, like Eklavya, who became an expert archer by practicing before a mud statue of his guru Dronacharya, and Mira, who compelled the divinity to transform her stone idol of Krishna into a living god. It was exclusively due to their merit and worthiness that Shivaji could derive benefit from Samarth Guru Ramdas, Chandragupta from Chanakya, Vivekanand from Ramakrishna Paramhans, and Dayanand from Vrijanand. These great men were also being constantly surrounded by hordes of so-called disciples. Did the latter gain anything? In transactions of spirituality, though credibility and competence of Guru are very important factors, the degree of Shraddha and emotional attachment of the disciple are rated even higher. Devoid of these basic ingredients, there is a multitude of self-proclaimed disciples roaming in vain in search of boons and benefits which they think they can obtain by fleecing some achieved person. Spiritually competent superpersons, however, have the capacity to peep into the mind of man. It is not possible to deceive them by any disguise of appearance or behavior. The Siddha Purush, Rishi, and Devtas are in no way influenced by the external appearance or worldly status of the person's. Only piety and inner self makes them confer some worthwhile celestial benefit. Meeting in person makes obeisance during beads of rosary, and flattery never brings about these advantages, which become available by virtue of merit and worthiness and by faithful fulfilling the assignments given by Guru. Prior to giving consent for marriage of their daughter, parents thoroughly examine the merits of the would-be bridegroom in order to ensure his worthiness and compatibility with their beloved daughter's qualifications. Who would like to give a daughter in marriage to the person of narrow, selfish temperament? The Siddha Purush acquires the powers after hard endeavors, and to them these are more favored than a dearest daughter. Seeking these powers necessitates much more than a humble request. It requires demonstrations of one's merit and utilization power according to a bilateral agreement. Supergurus hand over a part of their extrasensory energy and paranormal powers for utilization in some goal of higher order. No sagacious person would hand over one's power, hard-earned wealth, to fulfill some individual's narrow selfish interests, or to satisfy someone's requirements of greed, attachments, and ego. It should also be considered unethical to deprive someone of his hard-earned wealth in this manner. Highly placed government officials are given many extraordinary powers, and this access to resources from the welfare of people. They are used in accordance with the administrative disciplines. The defaulters who misuse them for personal benefits face the consequences of legal proceedings. Superpersons earn the title, honor, and extraordinary powers of a guru only after dedicating themselves wholeheartedly to promotion of ideals. Hence they hand over part of the valuable assets to only those who pledge the same ideology which is followed by the guru. Besides, they also examine the receiver for his credibility and honesty. An undeserving disciple who is unable to prove his worth wanders from door to door without getting access to anything worthwhile. The benefits of Diksha from Guru are obtained on the preconditions of their utilization for higher goals. None has ever succeeded in getting extraordinary benefits for narrow, selfish interests in return of easy flattery. The sooner the plain truth is understood, the better it would be for the truth seeker. The extraordinary competence bestowed upon our most revered Gurudev by his own Super Guru, he has proven his merit and worthiness by passing one acid test after another. The more he has proved his credibility, the greater extraordinary powers he has received from his Guru. Vivekanand, Dayanand, Shivaji, and Chandragupta too had desired and received unusual competence from Guru from higher objectives, but before this acquisition, each of them had to prove that they were deserving candidates. For acquiring higher qualifications, one has to prove one's worth in an entrance examination. It's like passing a pre-med test or a public service commission exam. In a wrestling competition, only that person wins the trophy who demonstrates superiority of strength and technique over other competitors. One must not commit the folly of promising to do something for the Guru in return for his grace or worldly favors. Only mean persons think of enticing others with smaller benefits after deriving greater advantages themselves. In the realm of smaller benefits, spirituality, sincerity, and honesty in transactions have supreme significance. In this field, there is absolutely no scope for gains without efforts. Whoever has granted boons had to first follow strict spiritual discipline of devout austerity and proves his worthiness. The process of give and take, which with our most revered Gurudev has followed in his transactions of spirituality with his Super Guru, is also recommended to each aspirant who wishes to be former's disciple. All that our most revered Gurudev has in possession, all his resources and his personal capabilities were dedicated by him willfully and sincerely for philanthropic ventures in accordance with the desire and necessities expressed by his Super Guru. Our Gurudev has also followed a routine of extreme austerity and asceticism at the instance of his Guru. This is how he has established his merit, his worthiness, in return for which his Super Guru handed over to him his entire storehouse of superpowers and made Gurudev superbly competent. Unless one is casual in approach, the endeavor or adapting Guru-disciple tradition must be related to fulfillment of rites, goals, and only for that one may expect large benefits or significant transaction, as is being done by the wise people. Diksha, process and arrangements. There are 3 successively higher stages of confrontment of Diksha known as Mantra Diksha, Pran Diksha, and Agni Diksha. Mantra Diksha is the prime stage during which the disciple is admitted to a particular school of spiritual ideology wherein he or she takes a pledge to act according to given directions with unflinching faith, dedication, and perseverance. The students learn the correct enunciations of mantras and is introduced to the methods of performance of primary rituals which are to be made a part of daily routine. At this stage, the objective is merely to make the disciple learn adherence to strict disciplines of spirituality. This is an introductory training which is helpful in giving a push to stagnancy of sadhana. In a way, it could be considered as an introductory light course of training, guidance, and discipline. However, for this process, too, there's prescribed procedure of rituals which establishes the interlink between the disciple and the guru. At this stage, either of them feel the necessity to be acquainted, but normally do not shoulder any specific responsibility for the other. Next comes the stage of Pran Diksha, which is comparable to a middle school education after kindergarten. Now, in order to increase the credibility and competence of the disciple, the Guru bestows a part of the self-earned tap, celestial virtues, and bioenergy. The disciple, on the other hand, takes some pledges, gives assurances, and acts according to them perseveringly. The interaction of mutual responsibility is continued throughout life. The interrelationship is analogous to that between a child and parents, wherein an interchange of faith, affection, and responsibility is continued. It is like preparation of new species of a plant by grafting. The Guru dissects a part of own existence to graft it in the disciple, whereas the latter nurses it lovingly by his own capabilities to make it grow. It is well known that grafting results in improvement of quality. The process of pran pratyavaran is no less significant than blood transfusion or grafting of organs. In either case, one begins an integral part of the other, making the person much stronger and more competent. The effects of Pran Diksha are well exemplified in the past examples of interrelationship between the pairs of Vishwamitra Harishchandra, Samarth Ramdas Guru Shivaji, and Chanakya Chandragupta. The highest level of Diksha is known as Agni Diksha, which is comparable to the declaration of Crown Prince by the king during his lifetime. This is a tradition being followed in Sikhism for a declaration of successive gurus. Such was the favor bestowed upon Ramakrishna Paramhans to Vivekanand. In order to acquire so high a level of credibility, to deserve so much of a favor from the Guru, one has to strive considerably. The subject is too complex, and detailed discussion on it, being of no use to the common man, is being considered beyond the scope of this book. The founder-organizer of Pragya movement has since long stopped conferring Diksha to new person, but of late a view of the necessity to increase the efficiency of the person who would be taking part in the crusade of creating a new golden world order during the contingency of this juncture of the 2 centuries. It has again been started. Nowadays, Mantra Diksha and Pran Diksha are being conferred according to the requirements. The facility is easily available to those who are willing. Before undertaking Guru Diksha, one must understand the concept. Guru Diksha from the Guru is reciprocated by Guru Dakshina by the disciple. The process is analogous to grafting. The branch of a tree is grafted to another tree. The latter begins to nurse it with its own nutrients. The conjunction produces a better species with improved variety of flowers and fruits. The process of grafting is akin to Guru Diksha and that of nourishing to Guru Dakshina. Both are absolutely interdependent. Carelessness in either endeavor would nullify the other. The Guru has to hand over part of his divine paranormal earnings of asceticism, virtuous acts, and bioenergy to the disciple, and the disciple must reciprocate by dedicating his faith and devotion, Shraddha, Vishwas, time, and resources for promotion of high ideals. The extraordinary powers and tremendous competence which our revered Gurudev has obtained from his Super Guru is granted by the former on the same conditions under which he has received them. Our most revered Gurudev in his